Hey, Book Club. Mr. Clingan here today with another lesson. And today's lesson is called Readers Learn History from Historical Narratives. And that word narrative, that's kind of like a fancier school word for story. So anytime you hear narrative, it means story. Now, we've been using lately some nonfiction texts to help us better understand our chapter books. So we've looked at some articles, we've looked at some maps, we've looked at some pictures, and that's all been nonfiction. So real historical documents that helps us better understand our chapter books, our narratives better. But today I'm going to kind of teach you the opposite thing, is that even though that these stories are fictional, they're fake, they're make-believe, we can still learn a lot about history from them. Okay. And the reason is because the good authors, they do a ton of research, background research, before they start writing their stories, because they want to make sure that they get the historical events and the time period as accurately as they possibly can. Now, I found an interview online with Lois Lowry, the author of Number the Stars. And a student asked her, what kind of research did you have to do to write Number the Stars? And here was her response. So she said, I did a lot of research in libraries about the history of World War II and Denmark's role in it. But the most important thing I did was go to Denmark and to talk to people who actually participated in the rescue of the Jews. It was important, too, to walk around Copenhagen and feel what the city is like and imagine what it had been like then, and to go up the coast through the farmland and the fishing villages. So isn't that incredible that our author from our read aloud actually went to Denmark and spoke to people who were alive during the German invasion and who actually helped rescue the Jewish people of Denmark. And she went to Copenhagen, where Anne-Marie lived in the story. She went to those little fishing villages and farmland where Uncle Henrik lives in the story. Okay, so she did a ton of research to help make her story as realistic as possible. Okay, so here's some things that I've learned about history from this book. Even though this is a fake book, Anne-Marie's fake, Uncle Henrik's fake, and their specific story is fake, they still has a ton of historical information that's true. So you can learn from this book that the Nazis, the German army, invaded many countries in Europe, like Denmark. The Nazis tormented and arrested Jews. King Christian X led Denmark in World War II. And citizens suffered shortages of basic necessities. So they talk about not having, enough food, not having enough coal to heat their apartments and homes in the winter. So tons of historical, true information we can learn from this book. And I'm sure you could think of even more. So today in our Flipgrid post, you are going to be sharing what you've learned about history from our book club books. So in our Seesaw assignment, it has our Flipgrid link right there. And it'll take you to this conversation called Learning from Historical Fiction. So you're going to answer the question, what have you learned about history from our book club books? So you could talk about Just Call Me Joe, the chapter book we're currently reading, Ruth and the Green Book, or The Blitz, okay? And for a sentence starter, you could say, I learned from, and then put in a title, that, and then put in some historical information. So you could say, I learned from Just Call Me Joe that, and then tell me something about history you learned from that book. Or I learned from Ruth and the Green Book that, and then fill in the blank. Okay? Also make sure that you read chapter 9, pages 60 to 69 from our book club book, Just Call Me Joe. All right, I'm excited to see what you've learned about history from our texts.